Hi folks, I'm Dr. Brent Satterley, and I have the privilege of being your professor for Social Work 633, Social Work Practice with Families Online. And I am excited to work with you this summer for Summer 1, and I just want to create this video to introduce myself to you, as well as just go over briefly the syllabus. You have access to the syllabus on Engage, but I'm just going to briefly go over pieces of it with you. All right, so to get started, obviously I'm not going to go through and read through the course description, goals, the competencies, and so on and so forth. That's not to say that you shouldn't. I want you to make yourself familiar with all of these components. And we'll continue to look at these things as we move forward. I did want to tell you a little bit, though, about the required texts. Of course, we always require the APA publication manual for all professional writing and social work. That is the format we use. With regard to the one of the textbooks, Minuchin, Calapinto, and Minuchin have worked and developed a book called Working with Families of the Poor. Certainly in social work, we work with vulnerable populations and often have access and interaction with people who are struggling, impoverished, coming from disenfranchised communities, and that often creates a multiplicity of problems in families and family structures and some of the presenting problems that we see in social work. It's a great text. Even though it's a little bit dated, it's really great text. The primary textbook for this is Nichols and Davis, Family Therapy Concepts and Methods, the 11th edition. It's a really, really good basic family therapy textbook that presents a wide variety of the different theories and models that we're going to be looking at this summer very clearly in ways that I think are easy to understand and grasp. The recommended texts, of course, McGoldrick and Hardy, Re-envisioning Family Therapy, looking at race, culture, and gender in clinical practice, as well as Sue's Microaggressions in Everyday Life, Race, Gender, and Sexual Orientation, both really good in terms of enhancing your sociocultural literacy, understanding intersectionality, and some of the ways that those particular dimensions present in family therapy. All right, let's continue. So the policies are all very specific. This is a 600 level course, so this shouldn't be your first time at the rodeo. So I'm just going to go right to the assignments. Our evaluation methods that we are focused on in this course, of course, include discussions, and you can see that they happen just about every week. There will be something called a family therapy theory grid that you are actually building every week. I'll go over that, and that's going to be due 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. There will be an article that you will read and then conduct a reflection paper on, due week 2. The two big assignments for this course are the Family of Origin Genogram and Theory paper, which looks at your family of origin, as well as creating a tool called a genogram of your own family, something like a psychological and socio-historical family tree, and an integrative case paper using a client or a client's family that you've been working with or have worked with in the past, or if necessary, a family system from TV, literature, film, something along those lines. All right, let's get right to it. Okay, writing, APA style, all that good stuff. Discussion forums, pretty clear. Certainly the same guidelines you use in other courses are applicable here. You can see initial post deadline, quality of initial posting responses, quality of responses, grammar, punctuation, etc. All pretty standard for online learning. All right, the family therapy theory grid. To start with, this is basically looking at 6 different family therapy theories and or models and asking you to create a grid that looks like this. And you will then be on each particular week that it's assigned. So the first week that is due communication theory grid this is when you will work on this and submit it. You will take a look at the literature that we provided and create this grid on a Microsoft Word document and simply list the at least 4 main ideas associated with this theory for practice. After each idea, provide a one-sentence description. So that will be all put in here. Obviously, the grids are going to get longer and over time. The interventions employed describe at least 4 specific interventions used by a social worker who is following this theory for practice. Describe each intervention in 1 or 2 sentences. Various cross-cultural considerations. In 1 or 2 sentences, discuss whether you believe this theory is useful across different cultures, why or why not, and then the various citations. The pieces I've seen where students really struggle here is in this component, cross-cultural considerations. I really want to see folks incorporate here looking at a specific sociocultural dimension or aspect of diversity, talking about ethnicity or race or sexual orientation or gender identity or ability or nationality or immigration status or religion. And then just highlight what's a variable based in that particular dimension that might be useful, how this theory might be useful in some way, shape, or form, or might it cause difficulty for that particular population? Now, of course, we know that all those areas of diversity aren't in a vacuum in and of themselves. They intersect, they interact, they occur within the context of various levels of systems. But for the purposes of getting us started with looking at this from a different theoretical lens each week, this is really important, okay? All right, the reflection paper, you will have to read an article by Russell, Gill, Coyne, and Woody. And you will then take a look at it and read through it and then write a paper 2 to 3 pages long, first summarizing the important points in your own words. Try to use very few direct quotations. Your reaction to those key points, what do you think about it? And then your reflection on any implications that you see for social work education and for working with clients. Fairly standard reaction and reflection paper in the context of this work. All right, so the bigger papers are the Family of Origin, Genogram, and Theory paper. That is, you will describe a problematic issue in your family of origin, and please kind of look at a particular note provided below about the type of problem that we're looking for, through a 2-part assignment, creating a genogram and then writing it up in terms of that particular approach. In week 3, you will submit your first draft of a family of origin genogram. I will provide a number of different examples of genograms in the announcements as we move forward in week 2, so you will have a chance to really take a look at that. And then in week 4, you will submit the actual family of origin paper and final copy of the genogram itself. So you will actually be turning in 2 versions of your family of origin genogram. The first one will be something of a draft. I'll give you feedback, and then you enhance it, make sure that you have the various variables incorporated in it. I'll be making videos with some of those particular directions as we move forward. Just a couple of points. When selecting a problematic situation from your family of origin, I'm not looking for you to delve really deep into something that is incredibly painful for you, that is unresolved, that you haven't really looked at. I'd rather you take some kind of topic that you feel like you have explored a little bit, you've examined, maybe you've been to counseling or therapy for it, what have you. But I do want you to think about what particular problem you choose and why, and which particular problems you avoid and why. Primarily because Carl Jung says we get the clients we need and deserve. And as a result of that, often we're going to have clients who end up pushing our buttons or have issues that may be similar to us in some way, shape, or form in terms of our own history in presenting problems. And so it's important to pay attention to how we are going to navigate that in our future. Regardless, I want to get us taking a look here at the family of origin genogram. Again, the first draft is due week 3. Take a look at this particular content. It's a multicultural family chart explaining genograms, and you can kind of take a look at it. Be sure that you include a key as well as the title of your genogram. All right, and you have to go at least 3 generations if possible. If you can't, just send me an email and we can chat about it, but that's fine. The paper, again, you're going to apply a theory, select one model of family therapy, structural, Bowen, communication, contextual. Obviously, we're not going to have covered everything, but I would encourage you to do your own research if you really are interested in one particular theoretical approach. And you're going to really explain the cause of the problem from that theoretical perspective. Think of that theory as a lens through which you are looking at that particular problem from your family of origin and how that particular theory might actually explain the problem. Why did things happen the way they happened? Were there particular areas of resiliency, etc.? Come up with a hypothesis based on that particular theoretical approach. Be sure to discuss any relevant sociocultural factors that are significant here. Identify and discuss strengths. And this should be a robust section simply because in social work that is certainly our bread and butter and areas that we're considered to be experts on. Describe and discuss using the Carter and McGoldrick family life cycle stage discussed in, I believe, week 1 and 2. And talk a little bit about the developmental family stages and tasks that might affect the problem, and then provide a short reflection on your experience of completing the genogram and the paper itself. You need at least 4 or more scholarly references. It should really only be about 6 to 7 double-spaced pages, all right? So relatively succinct. And here is the rubric. And lastly, both for the family of origin genogram as well as for the paper. And lastly, the integrative case paper due week 6. And here you are basically going to select a clinical case that you've been working with a family, a past family that you've worked with. And if you don't have one, you can certainly take a look at a fictitious family or a fit from, TV, literature, films. I've had folks do anything and everyone from The Simpsons to the folks from the TV show Shameless to folks from the TV series Empire to you name it. There's been all kinds of different family systems that students write about. In which case you will have to do some conjecture based on that. So this is very similar to the family of origin paper, but not quite. You're going to write a short assessment of the family and incorporate concept of the theory that's important and describe some aspects of assessment that are relative here using 2 models of practice that you've learned from the course. You're going to again discuss sociocultural factors, lifestyle cycle stages that are relevant to that particular issue or presenting problem, family strengths, and here's really where you're going to get more into it. Specific interventions you could use with this family that come right from the theories or models that have been employed thus far that you might be really interested in. You can be real specific and kind of help me understand that you grasp it, and then identify any potential value conflicts that you might encounter working with this family and how you might resolve them. So for example, let's say you are specific, maybe you're someone who is lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, and you particularly might be working with family that might be very conservative in their value system or have very strong religious beliefs that conflict with being LGBT. How are you going to address that in the context of your work? And that includes in supervision, and that's not just saying, I'll talk to my supervisor. I want you to talk a little bit about what are you going to say to your supervisor? How are you going to address it? What are some areas of literature you might pursue, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're going to, again, draw a genogram using accurate symbols in order to be able to submit it. And then 4 or more scholarly sources, and here's the rubric, and submit it accordingly. All right, folks, I know this is a whole lot. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I put some announcements, and make sure you check out the Welcome to Families video. In the first announcement, you might hear from a certain wizard. All right, I'm looking forward to working with you. Take good care. Bye-bye.